What's up, Internet? This is Ivan with Cannabis News and Reviews, an 18 and over channel designed to entertain and educate you about the marijuana community. And today I got another episode of Weed News coming at you. I got a couple good stories for you guys, but before we get into those, I'm going to be token. So keep an open mind. Grab your bongs, your pipes, your joints, your blunts, your dabs. Grab anything you got, and let's get stoned. Okay, so for our first story, this did happen just a little bit ago, so I'm a little bit late on this story, but I still find it very crazy and interesting. So on August 7th, a dispensary in Seattle, a dispensary that went by the name of Have a Heart, actually got robbed. The contents of what were taken, I don't exactly know, but it was a violent crime, basically. So essentially what happened was they hired this guy who from the start was a little bit sketchy. They couldn't find he didn't have a Facebook, his name was a little weird. But at first it was believed that this was basically just a random act of robbery, or somebody outside of that particular business that had done this. Well, come to find out, per the security tape footage, one of their employees, the sketchy one, actually set the whole thing up. He gave them a fake name, pretty much everything on his application was entirely false. And they even went as far as finding tweets, I believe it was, with him talking to the other guys that did it, basically planning it out on social media like a total moron. I have no idea what kind of logic was put into that, if any. But they did catch the guy. They did get him. So essentially what happened was this guy supposedly went outside towards the end of his shift, and when he got out there, he was shoved up against a wall at gunpoint and told to let these guys in, basically. Well, the owner went back and watched the tapes, and that was not the case at all. Essentially, on the tape, you can see the guy walk out the back door, and he almost does this motion like he's calling the group of guys over, and then they just go in and rob the whole place. They just ransack the entire thing. But immediately after the robbery, because of the fact that they didn't also immediately know that it was their new employee that had done this, he quit and pieced out to LA. He went all the way from Washington State to LA in one day just to get away from all this. And he was dumb enough to come back. That's what makes this whole thing crazy. I guess his boss somehow bribed him to come back to Washington, and before he was even able to get back into the state, they pulled him over and arrested him. But so that has been taken care of. Kind of a tragic thing to happen, but crazy, right? Just a guy who essentially got the job there so that he could rob the place. That is just like, I don't know. That's ridiculous if you ask me. And obviously he didn't get away with it, so I don't know. I don't feel bad for him. It is a wonderful, wonderful morning out here in Airway Heights, Washington. As usual, my Twitter is at CNAR420, Cannabis News and Reviews, just the acronym. I do put it down in every description of my videos. And do not forget, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a like as soon as you find this video worth watching. So, help out the newest member of WeedTube, guys. Come on. Okay, now, before I start my second story, I just want to make it clear that it is 100% illegal to mail marijuana using the Postal Service or using any form of mail. It is against the law regardless of what state you're in. Doesn't matter. I live in Washington. If I wanted to mail weed across the street, That's illegal. You cannot put weed in the mail. You can't do it. With that being said, last week in Washington, D.C., there were 3 postal workers that were arrested for this giant. They basically had started a marijuana business on the clock at the post office. So essentially, it consisted of 3 key people: the manager, I believe his name was Devon Rowe, and 2 letter carriers by the name of Kendra Brantley and Alicia Norman. And they worked for, what does it say, Lamond Riggs and River Terrace post offices in Washington, D.C. Now, as of right now, all 3 of them are being charged with 2 things: bribery and distribution of a controlled substance. Basically, what would go on is they were getting these packages from California and Oregon, essentially stuffed with weed. I don't know where they came from. The article I found this in was not very specific as to that, but whatever. But these packages would come in filled with weed, and Rowe, the manager, would then instruct the 2 letter carriers to either scan them with false information or just don't scan them at all. So technically, these packages like didn't exist in a way, or they were thought to be something totally different. And then they would basically bring these boxes of weed to their manager, back to their manager after they had scanned them, and their manager would hand them out a certain amount of weed and give them a bunch of money too for doing this. And then they would go, and while on their mail route, they would sell it to people. Now, this actually worked for them for a very long time. I guess before they were even suspicions of this going on, they had already been doing it for almost 6 months, just making bank off of it, basically. And as far as illegal things go, they were very smart about this. They did get caught, but the only reason they got caught was because they actually got seen. A cop seen one of the ladies do a deal out of her little postal car window thing or whatever, and he didn't really know what to think about it, so he called it in, but didn't stop her. He didn't arrest her, because they basically wanted to keep an eye on it, because that cop knew instantly that something very, very weird was going on. So they were actually tracked for 3 or 4 more months of them doing this and continuously making money off of it, before the police finally arrested them. But they did. They're in jail. Like I said, all 3 of them are being charged with bribery and distribution of a controlled substance. But I did find that very interesting. And DC, man, for some reason I just feel like it's kind of strange. Of all places for the Postal Service to be doing that, you would think it would be in California or like on the West Coast somewhere, but all the way over in DC, man, those people were probably making so much money. I think in the article it said that they were making somewhere around $300 to $400 every week off of doing that, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that because I don't know that for sure, but hey man, I could use an extra $300 to $400 a week. I just wouldn't illegally sell weed to get it. Stay high, stay lifted. That does it for this episode of Weed News. Have a fucking wonderful day. Wonderful. I hope it is mind-blowingly spectacular. Peace.